All right. So, welcome to Today's Dream, Tomorrow's Reality, a podcast that's sponsored by the Enlightened Peach. And that's where transformation begins within. And this space is where you're invited to shift how you think, grow, and how you lead. And step into the version of yourself who actually creates the life and business you've been imagining. Here, we explore the beliefs that shape you, the habits that move you, and the subtle inner shifts that help you see possibilities you may not have noticed before. Because once you change the way you think, your reality begins to change with you. Some days it's just me, real talk, deep coaching, and simple shifts that unlock big results. And sometimes, like today, I have a special guest joining me that will be bringing her own inside experience and spark. So this podcast is practical, transformational, and intentionally unfiltered, a place where you can relax, listen, and naturally begin to step into more of who you are becoming. So if something here resonates, please subscribe, like, share, and let this be the moment you decide to move forward in your life. So let's go ahead and get started. So this beautiful lady right here in front of me is Mia Vivone. Did I say it correctly? All right. And to be honest with you, I love having guests that I don't know everything about them, because I like to say that this podcast is you and me, Mia, sitting on the sofa in my living room in front of the fire. We've got a glass of wine or a cup of tea, whatever your preference is, and we're just getting to know each other. And to me, that is so fun to get to learn something about somebody new and just have that conversation. So that's what we're going to do today. And so I've just invited everyone else along on the journey. And so I would like to start with, maybe you could just give a little snippet about what you do and who you are, and then we'll just jump into getting to know one another.
Oh, Vickie, thank you so much for having me. There's no place I would rather be than with another woman describing the things that we can do to change our thinking, to change the way we show up in the world, to even change our identity within ourselves that might have been prescribed by people, things, circumstances, environments, in order for us to live a very fulfilling, happy life. Thank you so much for having me. What I do is I essentially take care of adult, childhood, and relationship trauma survivors. I do have some people who have experienced 9/11, combat, random violence, but really what my niche is I take care of people like me, people who were molested at an early age, people who were physically violated in fear of their own life, and other things, because the effects of those traumas really make up who we are for a long, long time, because they create our belief systems. And so even though there are a lot of methodologies that I have tried in my own journey, the last 20, almost 23 years that I have been teaching people, I have been able to really hone in even more on what I do that is working for myself and for other people. Yes. So
Oh, wow.
that's it in a nutshell. I help people live even though these things happened, because we can't go in the past and change it. Reliving it can re-traumatize us. And so it's a very present-minded, future-focused approach, what I do.
Beautiful. And when I started my podcast, it was because I felt like I had spent my whole life filtering my voice, depending on what group I was in and all these different things. So I decided I just wanted to get to a place where I could just speak anything I wanted to speak and, not worry about anything. And in that process, when I first started, I was just me talking, and I would be in a group somewhere on Facebook or wherever, and I would see somebody sharing a little bit about a story, and I would think, oh, I'd love to hear their story. And that's how a lot of my guests have come about. And there have been so there's several of them you could probably be reaching out to. There's a woman that she's been on several times because she's fascinating. She has walk-ins, and it's comes from a lot of trauma when she was really young. And so she's just absolutely fascinating. And then there's several others that have had, especially the sexual traumas when they're young, that have changed their life, their trajectory of their life to try to help others, kind of like what you were talking about for you. And the thing that to me that is always so profound when I hear people's stories is that some people have a story that happens to them that's a catastrophe and they never get past it, never. And it seems to be the whole reason why their life has gone to hell and it never gets any better. And then other people take that same story and it becomes the catalyst for who they're actually blooming to be and how they help other people. And so it's fascinating to me how we take stories and we either internalize it and continue to be a victim, or we take it and we build something beautiful out of it. And so that's always just fascinates me to no end. The very first guest I had on my podcast, I'm going to share real quick. He was a diabetic and he didn't take care of himself, and he ended up losing his leg from the knee down because of it. But in that podcast, the statement that he said that just blew me away, that made me just really start searching for other people that had stories, was that he said it was the best thing that ever happened to him, because he never would have become a coach or done the adventures that he did afterwards if that hadn't happened. He was on one of those working for 9 to 5 and being in a corporation, and he said he probably never would have strayed from that and created this amazing life that he had if he hadn't lost that leg. And it was like, wow, when you can lose a limb and say it was the best thing that ever happened to you, you got to listen, you know? And so it's amazing. So I would love for you to share. I want to ask us so much, but I want to ask you to share maybe a little bit of what was the turning point that actually had you looking at the trauma and the different things that have happened in your life and say, wow, I can do something from this.
Thank you, Vickie. You know, I hate to disappoint here, but I don't know if it was a specific turning point. This is decades of trying things to help myself that did not work. Alcoholism, drug addiction, failed relationships, workaholism, you know, the eating disorders, and then working out too much. And really what it was is all trying to fill this really big hole
Of not being
and
enough.
I don't know if I just said, okay, I can do something different. I do know it took a lot of work for me to look back and not hate those parts of myself that experienced those things or the people. Um, I I can acknowledge that there were things, choices that I had made, like with food, for instance, before I lost 65 pounds in my early 30s. You know, I'm 5 foot tall, not a long way for stuff to go. And I was very, very overweight and a single mom and a college student and an alcoholic but something came up and I said something has to change. And what it was pain. And so I started educating myself. As a matter of fact, I completed a NASM certification and I got a degree in sports nutrition, and it was just my world. And I had helped so many people for so long change their lives through that. I had no idea I was doing counseling at the same time. But that was really my first platform. I didn't set out to do what I do today. I really didn't. I just kept investigating things that did not work and looking for something that did. So I didn't look at my past and say, hey, I'm going to make something out of myself, or get to the point where I can say, you know, that life-threatening domestic violence incident that broke my neck and left me for dead was the greatest thing that ever happened to me. I don't know if I can say that today.
Hmm.
I just went to yoga this morning and a little bit difficult. So even though I have 4 pounds of metal in my neck, and it's keeping myself healthy through the rest of my years, that is my concern. So I don't know if I can do that with just about every experience, and there are well over 50 of
Mm.
them,
Yeah.
which makes me really good at what I do.
Yeah.
Because if somebody comes to me and says, hey, I got pregnant as a result of a rape, I can say, oh yeah, I get that. Like, I understand from the inside out how that feels. I was homeless with children because I had no familial support, and the court system failed me as a single mom who needed support for her children. I can say, you know what? I definitely know what that feels like to be there. I remember that even though they're 30 now, I remember that like it was yesterday. So the experience is, to me, worth more than my degree, my certifications. I worked in psychiatric clinics for a really long time, Vickie, and I watched them hurt people. I just
Hmm.
knew it wasn't right. I
Right.
just knew what was happening wasn't right. And the last clinic that I worked in shortly before they lost funding, right before COVID, got here in Sacramento, the last clinic was very focused on pushing people out into community services for psychiatry and psychotropic medication, and I was so against it. They needed coping skills, they needed to learn how to live, they needed to learn how to see themselves differently. So what I have done is I've used everything that I've learned, including higher education, to apply to myself to form a new me. And
Yeah.
as I make these decisions to form a new me, and I rehearse it day in, day out, much like, well, I know your path is a lot faster with hypnotherapy, and I would love to hear about that. I know some about it,
Hmm.
but this is more of a rehearsing through all kinds of different methods. And then all of a sudden, I'm doing something different than I would have in this particular situation. So today I can look back and say I'm grateful for every part of me,
Hmm.
every part of me, even the delinquent that nobody asked what happened to her. They said, what's wrong with you? But they never said what's happened to you to cause you to behave this way. Of course,
Right.
this is in the 70s.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so growing up very hard.
Yeah.
Um,
One of the things that you said that I'd kind of like to jump back to is when I was right after I let you start talking and everything, you said something about it was the pain was too intense. And
mhm,
so to me, like when I was talking about this gentleman, especially that said that was the best thing that ever
mhm,
happened to him, he said if he hadn't had the pain that he had to figure out something else to do, he would have skated along the rest of his life, probably in that old corporate job and never made any difference. And so many of the people that I've talked to and all these guests that I've had, it's not that they looked one day and said, oh, I think I need to make something of my life because this happened. It's that they finally got to a place that the pain of being where they were was so significant and overwhelming that they had to do a lot of self-reflection. They had to do something to start figuring out, how can I make something good come from all this pain? And it sounds like that's what you did, was that revelation of, I can't go along this way anymore. I've got to find something to help me. And if in the process, if I start helping other people, even better, right? And so you've already mentioned a couple of the things that you've had that have happened to you. And so I know I would like to go back. Do you remember? I'd love to know, do you have a favorite childhood memory? Is there a
That's a
favorite?
That's a tough thing for me because I had a severe case of trauma amnesia for a long, long time. I
Mm-hmm.
could not remember before the age of 12.
Oh, wow.
And so my childhood was awful, horrific.
Okay.
And the favorite childhood memory, I suppose, that I could pick for you was just the companionship of my older brother. We were together for a long, long time. But incidentally, my brother was also one of the first people who touched
Hurt
me.
you?
Hmm.
Yeah.
And so it's, I don't know if it's a favorite childhood memory, but
It's
I
just
have
a
a hard
it's a childhood memory that has a little bit of goodness to
a
it, I
little bit of
guess.
goodness. That's right.
Yes,
I have a
yes.
hard time kind of going back
Mm-hmm.
and I would rather go forward, but then and sifting those out, those are really difficult for me to do.
Mm-hmm.
But I can find them like that
Yeah.
if I really try.
The reason
But
I like to ask for your a person's favorite childhood memory is because sometimes there is so much that happens
mm-hmm,
that if you can kind of pinpoint on something that was good, and I will say I had someone that I asked that question, and the only memory that they could come up with is they remembered at one point in their life sitting on a swing set and somebody behind them pushing them on the swing and them laughing. And so to me, it just opens up the spot to find a little bit of joy, even if it's
sure.
minor, trivial.
I
But
think a better one for me would be, I grew up where there was a lot of snow.
okay,
And being exhausted from going up and down the hill with your sled and coming down, and I remember just laying on my back making a snow angel and looking up at the stars, and the contentment that I felt in that moment, like everything was right in the universe, including myself, right
yeah,
where I was at,
I love
is
that.
probably a very something that I revisit quite often.
Yeah, I love that. Beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. It
Yes,
just
sure.
kind of, warms your heart a little bit for anybody that
Yes.
hears that. I love it. I love it. So take us on a little bit of your journey that you want to share. I know you've got some things that you help people with and everything. So maybe just share whatever you feel like would set you up in that place for
Okay.
our
Sure.
viewers.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Vicki. People usually come to me because of relationships. That is the
More
number
in
one.
the family dynamics of moms and dads
Yes,
and brothers and sisters, or the romantic relationships, or
both.
both. Okay.
Yeah, both. It's something to do with some close bond
Mm-hmm.
that's gone awry. And even though you and I know that in the States, complex PTSD is still not recognized as an official diagnosis, it is in the UK and places like that, right? But show our self-worth and relationships and then how we handle emotions are pretty difficult for
Mm-hmm.
trauma survivors. And so people usually come to me through that. But what's really interesting is once we get through the immediate crisis and they've either produced harmony in the relationship or they've exited the relationship, something amazing happens. Either the couple will go on to completely recreate their everything. Now they both have new jobs, or now they buy a home together, or it just releasing something to move forward in them. And the single person, they might get a degree, they might start a business, they might go out into the world and just travel. And I had a woman who was a stay-at-home mom for a long time, divorced. Now she travels the world and she does a video log on Instagram about different cuisine, and she's
Mm,
never been happier.
beautiful.
It's similar. You and I have a lot of alignment in our work where we help people release to live an authentic expression.
Yeah, beautiful.
And the things that I have coming up now, I'm really close to releasing a signature course called the Untriggered Woman, and also a podcast that might be coming first,
Mm-hmm.
and then the course. And and would love to talk about reciprocating. Would love to have you on there, Vickie.
Oh, that would be
Absolutely.
wonderful.
Yeah, would be great. But the untriggered woman, I mean, just listen to that. Just listen to that. The untriggered woman. There's a little bit of a implication there that my emotions are bad, wrong. I need to suppress them. I need to put them aside in favor of everybody else's comfort. What does untriggered mean? And so that is what I explore in all of my work, how to acknowledge our emotions without suppressing, repressing. We know more than ever today, especially within the last decade, that that energy stays in the body at a cellular level, but then everything in our bones, in our fascia, in our organs, and how to release those things with the body is fantastic. I start with the body too, but we also need a shift in how we think,
Hmm.
because we still can't deny that the habitual thoughts will create the next thing that I'm experiencing, whether or not I want it, whether or not
Right.
I enjoy it. And so I do a lot of that mindset work after we regulate the nervous system. And then after that, we do a whole cognitive restructuring so people can actually understand, which we have scientific data today to back up, things like the law of attraction. When you and I were little, this was woo-woo
Yeah.
nonsense, you know, and it has since been proven with cognitive science that the thoughts are electric, the feelings are magnetic, and as they work together, they create momentum. And now I have an electromagnetic reverberance around me,
Hmm.
and it calls more to me.
Right.
And so I help empower people to manifest what they've
Beautiful.
always wanted, the health they've always wanted, the relationship they've always wanted, and the success they've always wanted. And some of the reasons that I can do that is because I have this before and after story of my own. You know, I have a terrific marriage. I never knew it could be so easy and comfortable, you know.
Hmm.
I have a great relationship with my adult children, even though I have added some things to their lives that I wish I wouldn't have.
Yeah. Well, if I could speak on that for just a second.
I would love that. Sure.
All right. Even though I'm going to say this, it might pull a little in you because of all the things that have happened to you, right? But I feel like there are no accidents. So, in order for you to become who you are right now with this amazing brightness about you, I can feel your spirit. I can feel your energy. And I know you're going to help so many people. But if all of those things hadn't happened to you, you would not be sitting here right now with this strength, this resolve, and this vibration that you've got. And so, as far as your children go, it's the same for them. If the things that maybe you said something wrong or steered them in the wrong direction, but let's be honest, there's not a parent alive that doesn't say that over and over and over again, right? But it's those things that help them become who they are. And it takes me back to an old movie, and I can't remember if it was called Parenthood or what it was, but it has the main character. He's got an adult son, and he's in college. Well, he is the dad is his baseball coach, and so he's reveling in all these things about being his son's baseball coach, and they're at the field. Somebody has hit the ball, and the son is running back with the glove to catch it. Now, in his mind, because he feels responsible for everything as a parent, right? He imagines that he catches the ball. Guy is out, and then at the end of the day, the whole team is lifting the dad up, because he's so great. And then he envisions that what if he misses the ball? And then the son is on the roof of a building and gunning everybody down. So as a parent, a lot of times we feel that kind of responsibility. It's going to be this good or it's going to be that bad for just one little thing. And so I'm saying give yourself a little bit more grace, because anything that has happened is actually going to help your kids destiny-wise to be who they were meant to be to begin with.
Mm. Thank you, Vicki. And they would agree with you.
Mm-hmm.
And I choose not to participate in mother guilt. I left
Mm-hmm.
that a long time ago. And but also acknowledging to them. I'll tell you a story if you don't mind.
Okay, sure. I'd love to
My
hear it.
younger one is investigating himself, doing a lot of really deep work. And he came to me not too long ago, about a week or so ago, and he said, "Hey, I think that some of the things I'm learning right now, I don't know if they could have been taught. And I just want to let you know that you did a really good job." And my eyes, welled up. And I
I
said,
bet.
"Thank you so much. Thank you so much for saying that." But then I grabbed his hand before he walked away and I said, "And the fact that I did a good job, but you also didn't get everything that you deserved. They can coexist."
Yeah.
So I gave him that while he was trying to fill my heart up. I also
Yes.
let him know. And I told him, I recognize, and I wish they were simple things, words said, or, but they were really big, impactful things. Being an alcoholic mom for the first 8 years of his life, destroyed relationships with men that he got close to, not knowing how to deal with a son who is neurodivergent,
Mm-hmm.
and not having the education that we do today around that. And so just acknowledging to him, but they both would say the same thing, especially my
Yeah.
oldest.
Yeah.
My oldest would say, "I had a great childhood."
Yeah.
And I don't want to take that from him either.
Yeah.
So I don't bring my, awareness of those wounds necessarily to the forefront all the time with that one, because he's already consolidated them
Mm-hmm.
into a place that works for him. Right. But
Yeah.
thank you so much, Vicki. You're absolutely right. All of our experience builds us into who we are and then shapes how we impact the world. A lot of trauma survivors, they can't see that.
Yeah.
And I'm so glad that well, you and I both are here to help people like that, who can't see their worth, who can't see their greatness. I have people that are tremendous artists, but they can't see their own work. Other people tell them how amazing they are, and they might get invitations to the Crocker Art Museum here in Sacramento, and they just can't see what other people see in them.
Yeah. It's interesting because I have a group on Facebook that's Stand Up and Stand Out is what the community is. And I go in there every Monday and I do a live about something. It always varies. And so this morning, what was coming to my mind was a thing that I talk about a lot, which is our financial thermostat, our health thermostat, our relationship thermostat, and how it's always regulating to what we believe we deserve or who we believe we are. And when somebody has some forms of trauma, and sometimes it doesn't even have to be a big trauma. It can just be a offhanded, snide comment that somebody made when they were 7 years old, and from that point on, that's their identity. But it's until we go in and change that and actually change what that belief is about ourselves, we're going to keep repeating it, and we'll be like that artist who says, "My work's not that good." What do you mean? You want to hang it in there? It's not worthy. I'm not worthy. And so it's really interesting how a lot of times, I know for me, I've seen people that looked like, oh my gosh, that's the life that seems like everybody would want. And then to have a conversation with them and find out that they feel like they don't even deserve that and that they really wanted more, but this is where they kept coming back to. And other people felt like it was this epiphany of something to go to, but to them it was not. So they can't even enjoy the successes that they do have in different ways. So it's really, really mind-boggling a lot of times to even understanding a lot of the subconscious mind and how it does. And I don't know, I just was coming up for me as you were saying all of that.
No, you're absolutely right, Vicki. You know, it's I've met people like that too. They seem to have it all, right? Is what we might say. They seem to have it all, but then you talk to them at a function and get to know the real person, and they're almost fragile
Hmm. Yeah.
and unhappy, or they have masks on, and
Yeah.
there's no real depth to their person. And so I hear you. I love the thermostat. I was actually listening to a couple of your episodes over the course of the week, and I love the that how is your thermostat? Because I think what you said, and I'll try not to botch it up, because your thermostat is going to show you you can only go so far to the point where you feel allowed. And this really ties into trauma work because most people are really good with adversity. But the minute I'm happy, my body picks up a threat signal.
Hmm.
The
Yeah.
minute I'm peaceful, I'm on hyper alert.
Yeah. When's the
The
shoe going to
minute
drop?
somebody's kind to me, I assume ill intent.
Yeah.
And so there's a lot going on with that thermostat. To me, this is a little dry technical stuff, but that Dr. Aaron Beck in 1963 called them schema. He called these core beliefs that are shaped in childhood schema. And trauma survivors have so many of them, but a lot of them are I have these thoughts about myself, my possibilities, my limitations, and then I have them about you, and then I have them about the world. And then there's peripheral ones about love. Like I used to say, I don't believe in fairy tales. Oh my gosh, I'm living it today. My husband can't wait to get home to me. We don't have silly, power struggles or anything like that. The communication is ease and flow. The attraction is constant. The spark is magic. And I'm so grateful to him that I have that piece in my coaching work now
Hmm.
too
Yeah. So
to
how did you meet
offer
him?
my clients.
How did you meet him?
We both ride motorcycles.
Okay.
Hmm. So
Oh.
we had a group here in Sacramento,
Hmm.
just an interest group, and we'd get together. And right around COVID, I've been writing a while, but I joined this group and I met him, and then we found out we had some more common interests like roller skating in the 80s and old school funk, and then earth wind and fire, and it all kind of started like that, and just overnight it happened. And a lot of people, even myself, I probably would have cautioned somebody like, wow, this is a lot of time you're spending together pretty quickly, but we just trusted it, and we
Hmm.
got married last April. And that was something that Vicki, we said that we would never do. We were sitting on a curb in front of a Chevron, because that's the best gas for your motorcycles is
Okay.
Chevron. Not that they're paying me for endorsement. I just really believe
Maybe they'll watch this and they'll send you something.
it. maybe,
Yeah.
maybe.
Yeah.
But we were sitting at a Chevron gas station just talking as friends, and I said, so, married? And he's like, no. And I went, me either. You ever think about doing that again? Oh no. Oh. And then a year after that, we were
Engaged.
dating seriously, and then a proposal happened in San Diego, and then we had a fairy tale wedding. it
Oh,
was
tell
it
me.
was at the beautiful garden in Sacramento around the Capitol. They have this, it's called the World Peace Rose Garden. So there's a war memorial, and then right around April, all of the buds, all the flowers open.
Mm, yeah.
So like no need for a florist, already there, fragrant, sunny day, just beautiful. And we had a hotel reception and a Hawaii trip the next morning, which I probably should have thought that one through a little bit more because we had 2 hours of sleep. I'm in recovery for alcoholism and drug addiction, so that's not something I participate in. My husband now and then, but it's not a crazy thing for him. But we had a lot of friends and stuff that really had a great time. But I was up way too late and getting on the plane and just, but we had fun. It was just the time of our lives. And even now we look back at those wedding pictures that are coming up on a year old, and we both say that was the happiest day of my life. And I'm glad I can have one thing in my life that I really feel that.
Yeah.
Like that was the happiest time of my life. I love my children, but their father was an abusive alcoholic, and my life was threatened a lot. So there were some things around those events that did not make it the happiest time. Not
Right.
what it could have been, not what it should have been. But
Yeah.
this was definitely my happiest. So we ride motorcycles together. That's what we're both very advanced riders. We spend a lot of time in the Sierra Mountains that have twists and turns and smell the waterfalls and the pine trees and the cedar and meet new people and just look at the views and end up in Reno for an icy.
Nice.
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
love
and
it.
I never thought it would happen to me. And it's interesting because we talk about how important beliefs are. I really never believed I would find that. I really never, that's what I would tell you. But there had to have been something,
Little
in
tiny piece in
Christian,
there.
a little piece. In the Christian faith, they call it a mustard seed, right? It
Yep.
was so tiny of a piece that, and you know what? When I stopped worrying about it, isn't that something? When I just released my hands and I
Hmm.
said, whatever will be, will be. And it was right there,
Yeah.
right there.
So it
Love was
sounds to
right
me
there.
like you had that little mustard seed, and then as the little joy pieces started popping in, it just kind of opened up that soil a little bit so that the blooms could come out. And because it was, I talked a lot this morning on my call about the micro movements of things that you do, because it's not these big things that happen that create a magnificent life. It's those little mustard seeds. Those, I like to say, we live a mosaic life. It's all the little bits and pieces. And when we make one little tiny decision, it changes everything. And so you were able to be open, even though you had so many things that a lot of people, it would keep them from opening up for that, right? That you had enough faith in you and enough of guidance or knowledge, I don't know, but you had enough of something in you that allowed you to be open to it. Because let's face it, a lot of people that had been through what you'd been through would have not been open and would have only seen anything bad that they could see. So it's like you did have some of that um, vision in mind in order to even take one little toe step.
And it might have been subconscious, and you and I
Yeah,
both know all about that, that it might have been out of my awareness.
yeah.
My last divorce, which is a long time ago now, but my last divorce, I remember driving away and I left millions. I left millions of dollars in alimony, rental income, dividends from different investments. I left it. I left it because I did not want strings
Mm.
attached to that relationship. And I remember driving away and saying, okay, universe, which is my preferred name for all that is, I don't know what I'm doing from here on out, but I'm just going to trust. I was in school for a specialization. I was part-time philanthropy, trying to write a book, still trying to write a book. Aren't we always
Yeah.
trying to write another book? We're just
Yeah.
those people, aren't we? The coaches
Uh-huh.
are, and now they have so many places for us, like, come write a book. We'll make you a bestseller. It's like the greatest thing in the world, right? But I was right in the middle of that, and I just trusted. I just trusted. And I had to take an FMLA from my job. I had 3 months off. I couldn't show up. And I drove this beautiful speed yellow Porsche to the grocery store in my neighborhood. And I sacked groceries for $11 an hour just to get used to getting up and reporting somewhere over and over again, 3 and 4 hours at a time, and early morning, and just saying good morning to people and learning how to work in different places, and then getting behind the cash register until I did my own work after that divorce, to be able to show up for people with the capacity that I needed to. It's just incredible, these life-changing things. And
Mm-hmm.
today I look at it all, and I can say all that has happened to me, I do not deny, and I do not have contempt for it. And I'm so far past the, well, do you forgive them? I get asked that a lot, and that's probably another podcast interview,
Yeah.
that subject. But I'm not even there anymore. Like, that's neither here nor there. What matters is how it is this gigantic puzzle piece that was so scattered, and I had these pieces that just would not fit no matter what. And now all of my parts, all of the pieces of me fit. They've all come home, and I don't resent or regret a single one of them. And I use them on a daily basis. There are still things coming out. Like, I tell clients, like, I can't believe I've never shared this with anybody, but here we go.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's only when it's pertinent to their healing journey that I will share something about myself. But there are real time things that I share often. You know,
Right.
when I went no contact with my mother and my stepfather, and the first time I spoke out publicly about the incident with my brother, was on a podcast, and so
Yeah.
it's just, the healing journey is just, it's ongoing, isn't it? We never arrive, and I don't know if people like knowing that or not.
Yeah.
Like,
Well,
we
I
just
think
never
some
arrive.
don't, but I think the ones that are going to do the best are good with that. And the way I kind of look at it as the there is so much in our life that happens that we kind of put, it's like we have these little boxes in our heads, this one goes over here, this one goes over there. And so it's when somebody says something and it's like, poof, I know I've got one of those in that box. Let me pull it out. Let me share it with you, because people love being able to have someone who can relate to them on a personal level. It's
Yes.
not like you read about it in a book and now you say, well, according to this book, this is where we're at. It's that I had this experience. This is how I can share this with you. And then maybe together this solution or this change of idea will show up. So I'm sure you're probably a little bit like me in that, is that we don't solve everybody's problems. We
No.
help them come to an enlightened place to have a different view of it. And then hopefully from there they can move on and change whatever they need to change. But some people, they want someone to come to them and say, do this, do this, do this, you're fixed.
Yeah,
You
and
know?
that it makes me sad when
Mm-hmm.
people talk like that about themselves, because they're still not seeing clearly.
Yeah,
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 that
yeah.
if they perceive themselves as broken or damaged, and look at all of the social media stuff that wants us to co-sign that,
Oh, yeah,
I would never say that about myself.
yeah.
I might have in the past, but today I would never say those words about myself. And to be okay with certainty is a trauma survivor's biggest mission. And in order for me to do that effectively, I have to have autonomy and I have to have agency, because otherwise it's just one more time somebody else taking control over me, my life, my voice, and I'm not able to have that relationship with myself that recognizes my resilience and boosts my own confidence. And I don't have a new record of an experience that works out completely different than it ever has before. And that's necessary for the neuroplastic changes that we need to see in order for us to begin to move in another direction, is to have those new experiences. So every time I share my feelings with my husband and he doesn't shut me down. You
Yeah.
know, every time he's angry and he'll let me know, but not in the ways that I've seen a man angry before. That's a new experience. And every time we have that, the identity is reshaped because now I have a new belief. Not all men who get loud and angry hit.
Yeah.
You know, no, every time I try, I don't fail because I succeeded here.
Yeah.
We're rewriting it all the time, but getting used to being in process. It
Yeah.
can be frustrating and exhausting for some.
Yeah. I think where the most of the frustration comes from, just what's coming to me at the moment, is the fact that everybody is looking at everybody else's highlight reel on social media, and they're seeing things on TV or whatever that makes it look like if this isn't the way you're living, then there's something wrong with you. And one of the worst things we can do is the comparison all the time. And it is so prevalent, so prevalent. I fall to it sometimes myself, you know. But it is an amazing thing that having all this technology at our fingertips all the time and people's lives at our fingertips all the time gives us a little bit of a skewed idea of what reality is. And if ours doesn't match what we see theirs being, or we think theirs is being, we can be very self-critical and feel like I just need to be fixed. And so I love what you said, because it's not that at all. There's nothing wrong with us. We may want to shift something about ourselves,
Mm-hmm.
and that's okay. Because maybe however we were dealing with things in the past were not the healthiest way to deal with things.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's kind of just coming all the way around to getting to a healthier relationship with ourselves and with our past, our future, everything. It's just getting to this place where we can find a bit of happiness in all the pieces.
Yes, absolutely. And I heard it in your tone, you know, what we think their life is. Because I have met so many individuals, so many couples that if you look at their social media, oh, they're power couples and they're rich and famous and they're perfect and they're at the gym and they're getting on this flight and they're in Hawaii again. And you know what? That isn't always what's really happening,
Right,
is it?
right. Yeah,
And the dynamic is toxic and the
right.
communication is broken down and the ice is growing. There are glaciers between them, and you can't see that on social media either.
Yeah. And
And comparison, even though it is a normal, you know, construct for us, I have that too. Like when I look at certain coaches, you know, and I aspire because I've been doing one-on-one forever, and which is great. I love what I
mm-hmm.
do. I'm so thankful, but I'm really looking forward to breaking into like the group coaching. I never thought I would be able to do that with trauma. I was so against that about 10 years ago, you know, anything like that, other than a psychoeducation group, but actually, you know, teaching people on a group level about trauma or coping strategies is something that I'd like to do, or courses and
Yeah.
online stuff, or like you have your Facebook group. You know, I've tried those things a couple times and just to get my feet wet, and I think they're lovely. But I will look at a coach and go, oh wow. But I have to really pay attention to my narrative, because today I understand that that's where the most power for me resides, in the conversation I'm having with myself. And it's either going to
Right.
take on the people who have hurt me, or it's going to take on the people who have helped me, like my eighth grade teacher, right, who saw a math science aptitude and put me in a situation where I could thrive. And then I got to college, I got straight A's. Who knew?
Nice.
Who knew? Failing my whole life in primary school and junior high school, and it's just evident that there was so much going on, right? But this social comparison, as I look at this fantastic $1 million coach, right? And then something says, it'll never happen for you. Stop the train, because it doesn't have to go down like that. And I'm rejecting that and I'm rewriting. It's going to look exactly perfect for me.
Right.
Something at my pace, something that is perfect for me in my own way, and I reverse that narrative so I become empowered. And that skill right there it's taken me so long to create that. I have survived 3 suicide attempts. And I am so grateful that I have this other voice in my head today. An aspect of me, just to clarify, it's not psychosis, but it's an aspect of me.
We know what you mean.
Good. Thank you so much. But I have this supportive part of me that loves me, adores me, accepts me. And I didn't grow up with that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I didn't receive that. That teacher was the first person who spoke life into me. A teacher
Beautiful.
impacted my life.
Have you ever reached back to that teacher?
Oh,
or do you even know how? Pardon?
She's long deceased now. But I had tried to find her. Yes, I did in my 30s. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Cancer took her, I think, a little too young.
Okay. Well,
but I wish I would have been able. But I tell a teacher every time I run into a teacher, I tell him, if I had it my way, you would be getting the pay of the football players.
That's right.
Because that changed my life.
Yeah.
Changed my life by just seeing some quality in me that was strong and pulled it out. Like, you really have a knack for this. So then in upper level courses, I'm taking a statistics class and I'm doing an EFT. I do EFT. I'm sure you know what that is.
Yeah.
I did an EFT video. It real time. My face was red, my chest was red. You could tell my heart was beating out of my chest. If I didn't pass this course, the degree plan wasn't going to be finished. So like, I needed this course, and not very good at that, math, not very good, needed to struggle to pay attention to what I was doing. And I did some tapping, I passed, and I got a high B. And then I got back on the video and people were able to see
the difference.
That it really works when we deal with the nervous system.
Yeah. I've used that with a few clients to remove the compulsion for sugar.
Yes,
which is very profound. Where I had them get a little sugar, a little Hershey's Kiss, and then we would go through the sequence, and then they would take a nibble of it and taste of it, and then we would do another sequence. And by the time we did it, at the end of it, the chocolate tasted like wax. It didn't even taste like chocolate anymore. And I said, well, technically, your brain's had you hijacked all this time because it's always been wax.
Yeah. Yes.
So
Beautiful.
EFT is super powerful.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, it is. That was my first exposure to nervous system work. And I learned it from some lady that came to the gym, and she was quite older than I was. And I don't know, I must have been 32, 33 years old. And I thought it was crazy. And she said, let me help you, come over and have coffee. And she did muscle testing and had me march and had me walk backwards. And I had no idea what she was doing. And then when I studied it, I took a lot of certification from Nick Ortner. and I studied it and I applied it to myself. I run myself through everything before I teach clients anything. And I was like, wow, this really works.
Mm-hmm.
Especially, I've learned to incorporate some EMDR into the EFT cycles, the rolling of
Yeah.
the eyes or the up and the down. And
Yeah.
those really work for me too, because I could not sit with my eyes closed. People said, well, maybe you should learn how to meditate, but I couldn't. I thought if I closed my eyes, something was going to get me.
Yeah. Yeah. I
That
can
those
see
were the
that.
beginnings for me. Yeah, too
I can see that.
hypervigilant
Yeah.
to close our eyes, and there's not enough warnings out there about that. When we encourage clients to close eyes and go within, that's not always a good thing for everybody. Somebody could have a very severe emotional reaction to that. It may be the first time that they've ever sought inside.
Yeah. Yeah. Very true. Well, we're getting close to time, but this has been amazing. So
A
before we
wonderful
close out,
conversation.
I want to see if there's anything that we haven't touched on that you really wanted to make sure that you said while you were on here. And if there's any advice that you would like to impart everybody with that is actually watching or listening.
Oh, thank you so much, Vicki. And it's been a terrific conversation. I hope we can do it again sometime.
Oh,
The
definitely.
connection feels like we could just talk for 4 hours straight, and
Yeah,
maybe we should do that and then just cut it into clips. I
that's
don't
it.
know.
That's it. Let's do
But
it.
I just think you're amazing, and I can feel you too. So thank you for that. What I would like to tell people, somebody who's been around for a little while, I'm 55 years old and lived a lot of stuff, but also tried a lot of things to help myself. And what I would like to say is it's neither the body or the mind. And we have a constant argument about whether things like talk therapy or whether somatic exercises, and what it is trauma healing. It needs a multidimensional approach, but we cannot receive in the mind if the body does not feel safe. So safety, felt safety, is the foundation, but it's also the beginning. It's not the end, it's the beginning. So if we're doing somatic exercises and feeling felt safety in the body, then find somebody or some channel to also back that up with different types of mind training, whether it's a belief system overhaul, which definitely needs to happen in survivors, but then also some type of changing the internal landscape of the mind and what we think and what the habits are, and things like reframing, redirecting, training attention, mindfulness. All of those things come after the body feels safe. Once we get out of survival mode, then the mind can create. And so it's all, not one, not either or. And the last thing I usually like to end with is a quote by Eleanor Roosevelt. Perfection is the epitome of self-abuse. I
Mm.
am worthy right now as I am in process. I don't have to strive, I don't have to fight. It's so beautiful to live this way, to just understand that the real work is inside of me. And if I'm willing to do that and I live by frequency and vibration, then the things I need come without effort, without force, without manipulation, without me kicking and screaming, without me worrying. It's just a better way to live. Yeah. Thank you, Vicki.
Beautiful. Well, thank you. And everyone that is watching or listening, just make sure that you can like, subscribe, and share. And then if you have a question or a comment or anything for Mia, just put it in the comments, and I'm sure she will be able to get to it. And
Absolutely.
because we love interacting with you guys. And the more you can share this out with your people, the more her message gets heard. And that's the whole purpose of being here, is to let her tell her message so that she can reach as many people as are needing it. So thank you, everybody, for being here, and we'll see you next time. Mwah.